The story begins with the Chidi family, Father Chidi, Mother Ngozi, and their two children, Obinna and Chika, driving through the rugged Nigerian countryside. It's a humid evening, the sky overcast, casting an ominous shadow over the small, sleepy village they are passing through. The family is on their way to visit a relative in the neighboring town, but the road ahead is obstructed by a massive fallen tree. Chidi pulls over, frustrated. "It wasn't here this morning," he mutters, attempting to reverse the car. But despite his efforts, the road behind them appears to be closed off too. With no clear way forward, they decide to take a detour through a nearby forest, hoping it will lead them to an alternate route. As they drive deeper into the woods, the trees seem to close in, blocking out the fading light of day. The dense foliage adds to the eerie silence that envelops them. Chidi keeps driving, certain that they'll reach the main road soon, but the unsettling feeling grows. The sun finally disappears below the horizon, and the headlights cast long shadows as they continue on. Soon they notice something strange. The same buildings appear again and again, as if they've been driving in circles. "Where are we?" Ngozi asks, her voice trembling. They eventually come to a small, isolated village, a town that isn't on any of their maps. The name of the village, Uru, is barely visible on a weathered sign. Chidi hesitates but decides to stop for directions. The town looks quiet, but there is an underlying tension in the air. The scene shifts to the town as night falls. People are seen hurriedly locking their doors and windows, whispering among themselves in fear. Some of them place strange talismans made of carved wood and beads on their doorways. Chika, curious, peers out of the car window, catching sight of a large figure standing motionless in the distance. The figure is dressed in ragged clothes, his eyes glowing faintly in the darkness. The town's uneasy atmosphere thickens. The family parks by the village square, unsure of what to do next. Chidi knocks on the door of an elderly woman's house. She opens the door cautiously, her eyes darting around nervously. "You've come at the wrong time," she whispers, glancing over her shoulder. "You must leave before nightfall. The darkness here is not like elsewhere." Suddenly, a child's laughter echoes from across the street. The elderly woman turns pale and slams the door, muttering under her breath. But before the Chidis can process what's happening, they hear the unmistakable sound of a child calling out. A small boy, barely 6 years old, stands at the edge of the street, gazing toward the woods. The boy's parents, panicked, rush outside to pull him back into their house. "No one is safe after dark," the mother explains in a hurried, shaky voice. "The trees, they come alive at night. The spirits that haunt these woods will take anyone who ventures out after the sun sets." Chidi is skeptical but agrees to stay in town until morning, though a deep unease settles within him. As the night deepens, an oppressive stillness surrounds the village. Strange whispers float through the trees, sending chills down their spines. The wind picks up, and the distant howls of unknown creatures send echoes through the air. In the distance, a faint glow appears, growing brighter by the second. It seems to draw nearer. The villagers huddle inside their homes, lighting candles and chanting prayers under their breath. The Chidi family, unsettled, watches as the light approaches, slowly revealing a terrifying figure, a tall, shadowy entity with glowing eyes and a mouth that opens too wide. Chidi and his family stood frozen on the desolate road, the weight of their situation sinking in. The town they had stumbled into seemed to have no exit, no way out. No one knew how they got there, but they knew they couldn't leave. The sky had a strange tint, and the air felt heavier with each passing moment. It wasn't just the oppressive atmosphere. Something felt wrong. Something sinister was lurking. The family of four huddled together, fear creeping in. Chidi's heart pounded in his chest as he looked around, unable to make sense of the eerie stillness. Then, from the distance, an unfamiliar figure emerged from the shadows. Cloaked in a dark, tattered robe, the figure moved with an unsettling purpose, slowly but steadily approaching them. "Stay close," Chidi murmured to his wife Ngozi and their two children. His voice quivered, though he tried to sound calm. He didn't know what was coming, but he sensed danger. Just as the figure grew closer, the screech of tires echoed through the eerie silence, and a white medic van skidded to a stop beside them. The door swung open, revealing a man with a stern face. "Get in, quick!" the man shouted, his voice commanding yet filled with urgency. I'll take you to safety." Without a second thought, Chidi ushered his family into the vehicle, sensing that they had no other choice. The figure behind them, now much closer, began to quicken its pace. It was relentless, its steps echoing like a grim drumbeat. Sheriff Bawal slammed the door shut and floored the accelerator. The van sped down the twisted, deserted roads, the unknown figure pursuing them at an impossible speed. Chidi's family clung to each other, the vehicle lurching over rough terrain as they sped away. Minutes passed, though it felt like hours, until they reached a strange house, the Colony House. The large building loomed in front of them, surrounded by a high stone wall. The van screeched to a halt in front of the door, and the family hurriedly piled out. Sheriff Bawal moved quickly, pulling a small, intricately carved talisman from his pocket. He placed it carefully in front of the door, and with a swift motion, he whispered something under his breath. There was a soft, glowing hum, and the door glowed faintly. "Nothing can cross this threshold now," Sheriff Bawale said, his eyes hard as he watched the road. The distant figure had stopped, staring at them from afar, its form flickering in the shadows. It would not come any closer. "Why can't we leave?" Chidi asked, his voice trembling. "It's not about leaving," Bawale replied gravely. "It's about surviving. The town traps people like you, people who wander in without knowing. You're not the first, and you won't be the last, but as long as you're here, we protect what's ours." As Chidi looked at the talisman, a mix of fear and awe filled him. The glowing light from the door seemed to pulse with a strange energy, keeping the sinister forces at bay. For now, they were safe. But the strange town, with its unexplainable dangers, still held its grip on them. They had no choice but to wait and hope for the day they might finally escape